Morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world. And my name is Vicky Thomas, and I would like to invite you to this episode of Hit Talks Live. Yes, Hit Talks Live. What are we? Who are we? Well, we are a platform that brings together 8 speakers from all over the world, speaking on 8 different perspectives on hope, inspiration and transformation, and each speaker does that in 8 minutes only. And you have to join us to be able to really understand the magic that happens in these Hit Talks episodes, because people come together purely from their heart to actually share with you what they've been through, that to give you hope, to give you inspiration, to give you some transformational messages. There is no selling, there is no positioning, it is purely service from the heart. One thing that Hit Talks has been created since we started on 02/02/2020, which equals 8. Since we started then, is we're creating a community of like-minded souls, spreading hope, spreading inspiration and spreading transformation. So please join us. Sending you love.
Welcome. So that was Vicky Thomas, the founder of Hit Talks. And I'm Tahira, founder of Golden Door. Golden Door and Hit Talks have a close partnership. Golden Door started in, I would say 2019, and we were inaugurated in September 2020. So both organizations are 2020 born. Okay, so the values of Hit Talks: hope, inspiration, transformation, and Golden Door, truth and integrity. Both values coming together and really speaking from your heart. So what we had just recently, we had the Golden Door 2021, the second year since we started. And we had the winners and the commendation recipients of the Golden Door 2021. Today is really the winners and recipients panel. So we have chosen up to only 8. And they're going to be speaking from their heart. They're going to be sharing perhaps their stories of transformation, perhaps the stories of information and inspiration. And myself and the judging panel have gone through their books, essays, and their poetry, which they've submitted. We do know them in terms of what their messages are. We do know, in some ways, what their truths are. And they are all messengers. That's the objective of Golden Door, is to really uplift those truth writers. They're willing to carry out with boldness and release their messages in terms of the written form. And they're not swayed by the world. They're not swayed by the masses. They have their objective, they have their message, and they go through a journey of releasing it. And our objective, Golden Door, is to raise such peoples up. And in this panel, in this talk show, live, we want to help them bring out the written word into the spoken word through some of the intimate personal stories, perhaps. We kept it completely open. I said to them, don't prepare, just speak from your heart. And that is what the essence of Hit Talks when Vicky started this. So I'm also quite curious myself. I'm excited to hear what they're going to say. And I look forward to seeing, uh, perhaps some of you coming on Hit Talks if you're inspired by what they have to say and share. All right, are we ready? Let's begin with the first speaker. The first speaker is Annette Greenwood from the UK. And Annette, by the way, she received the third place in the Golden Door Awards as a shared prize for the book category, Imprisoned Heart. And she's also a bronze medalist for the Golden Door Rex Kamavir Truth Writers Fellowship Chakra Awards. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about these awards. You have the main awards, where we assess the truth writer, and there's a bit more measurement on the writing skills. And we also see how the message comes across. And then from there, we also have another assessment, which is the Golden Door Rex Kamavir Truth Writers Fellowship. And in there, we look at the change champions. So she came in for both. And as a bronze medalist, we were gold, silver, and bronze. And as a writer, she has made it this far. So Annette, look forward to hearing your message.
Thank you, Tahira. I'm hoping you can hear me because I can't see anybody now. So I'm hoping you can hear me. And I just wanted to say again a huge thank you for the Golden Door Award and for being here today. And every time I see you or I'm part of anything to do with this, I always say, can I be any more excited? And I can. I'm even more excited today than I was the other day. I wanted to share something from my heart that I've been reflecting on since the Golden Door Awards and the lead up to it and the kind of things that have happened in my life to lead me up to it. Following my passion and purpose has taken a huge amount of inner resources, determination and tenacity, and at times tears, but I never gave up. And I think part of my message, apart from the book, is around people not giving up and following their passion and purpose and believing in that and going for it all out, no matter what anybody else says. Again, on those reflections, I was thinking about my own personal integrity and honesty and what led me onto this path. And a lot of the things I've done have been around challenging injustice and discrimination for those who are less vulnerable than myself, those who had mental or physical challenges, those who may have been the underdogs themselves, as I was once told I was, and how I could see so much of myself in all these people that I've tried to help over the years through challenging injustice. And I don't just mean it from personal example, working in an environment where it was very male dominated. I always had to challenge those injustices about how women did this and men did that. And I was never prepared to accept that as a truth. And my own truth was, no, we are equal. Therefore, I am good enough and maybe in some cases even better to do this job to the best of my ability. It's not about my sex or my colour. It's about what I can do and doing that job. And so part of these reflections since Golden Door Awards have been around that and how somewhere in me I always knew that I would rise above and I would rise above the humble beginnings that I was given in life, and I would make that into a success. I wasn't quite sure how it was. And so I kind of followed that path and went through lots of challenges, mental health challenges, relationship challenges. My first marriage was a a relationship that was domestic violence. I'm happy to say I've been with my current husband, a lot of years, and it's a very different place to be. But throughout all this, as somebody who's a truth speaker and follows their own integrity and passion, I found that I was judged quite a lot. I was judged for being a woman. I was judged because of my age. I judged because I didn't go to university. I was judged on all sorts of things. And again, that gave me more strength and confidence. It's almost like when somebody tells me it can't be done, I will tell you it can be done. And that's made me so sort of strong and tenacious in my message that I share. I had a conversation with somebody, probably about 2 or 3 months ago, and she'd heard about me from another connection and wanted me perhaps to interview me for her book, not her book, her magazine, sorry. And we came onto Zoom, and she didn't know anything about me, but took one look at me and she said, I want influencers. I want people who can sell my magazines and put bums on seats and make me money. Can you do that? And I just sat really quietly listening to all this, and I just said, well, actually, I'm going to have to decline your offer, but thank you very much, because my values were around sharing a message, being honest, being truthful. Money wasn't anything to do with it. It was all around sharing that message and that strength and hoping somebody else could gain strength from my message. So on writing my book, and Tahira knows all about this, and I know we haven't got time to go into all that, but the message was about triumphing over adversities. And from the initial idea of that book, it had been in the hands of people who didn't do it for justice. They lied and they said they were taking it here, there, and everywhere, and that never happened. So I took some control over the situation. I listened to my inner guidance, and I took the book out of their hands. And I decided I was going to do something myself with it. I didn't know what at the time, and I didn't know how. And I was coming up against people all the time with saying, it's not going to amount to anything. Just forget it. It'll never be published. And each time that happened, I just kept drawing all the time on my inner resources. And on one of the people who inspired me, which was Paulo Coelho, in his book, The Alchemist, and he had to fight to follow his dream. And I thought, if he can do it, I can do it as well. And then not too much earlier this year, I met a friend, somebody who was a dear friend of mine, and she told me about HIT Talks. And that was the start of an amazing journey. It was on HIT Talks that I met Tahira, and I heard of the Golden Door Awards. I had no idea what it was, but the spookiest thing happened. I just opened myself up to it, and I followed this journey through the Golden Door. And I feel like I'm at the other side of this golden door now. But at the time, I didn't even know whether my book would, whether it would get anywhere. I submitted it, and I kept seeming to be going through the process. And each time it happened, I was flowing with it. Everything just seemed to be falling into place. And on the day of the Golden Door Awards last week, and it was a very emotional day to hear. I know it was, but I was just so full of enthusiasm and excitement. And to be a winner, that had to be the biggest honour that I've ever had in my life. And it's taken like a week or more for actually to sink into what was happening, and to know that all that belief and determination I had in myself, that somebody else had actually seen it, somebody else who'd never met me before, they'd never read my book, and those judges and Tahira knew nothing about me really, but they took it exactly as I meant it to be, as I meant that message to be delivered out into the world to anybody who it would resonate within their heart. When I say I came from humble beginnings, I did, and I mean that sincerely. But what I would say is, listen to people's feedback and take it on board. Ignore the naysayers. If they say no, say yes. And my final part to this is, the only person that you really need to believe in is you. So if you have a dream, hold on to it and let that vision burn like a bright star. With gratitude to everybody here today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tahira.
Thank you so much, Annette. That was such a heartfelt message. I didn't expect that. And also that you were willing to be vulnerable when you mentioned a bit of your story, the not good, so good parts. And yes, sometimes we may underestimate ourselves. We can spend our whole lives, decades, and you think that, "No, I'm not good enough." But there are these diamonds in the rough, and the underdogs, the unknowns, the misfits, and they may have something really outstanding and special for the world to hear. We felt at Golden Door that we didn't want these people to just disappear. We really wanted the important messages that some of them had to be revealed to the world. They may not have the resources, they may not be well known, they may not be, you know, on a powerful platform that puts them out there. They may have some issues, something that's holding them back. So many things. So what we did is that we really look at the essence of the message and the essence of the person. So Annette, you have that essence, you have that substance, and we encourage you to keep releasing your messages in whatever form. What you wrote is just the first step. Okay, thank you. And we have our next speaker. Looking forward to hear what she says. She's based in the US. It's very early morning there. Not okay, yeah, 8 p.m. I think 8 a.m. Sorry, 8 a.m. past. Valeria Alo, I believe that her origins are from Argentina. I'm not sure. I think she did mention. So she has written about the Latinos. So Valeria is a thought leader and speaker of Hispanic empowerment. She just, I think, released a book called Uncolonized Latinas, and she did outstandingly at the Golden Door 2021. She won the first prize, the first place in the essay blog category. Really moved the judges. And she was also the silver medalist for the Golden Door Rex Kamavir Truth Writers Fellowship Chakra Award, which means that they saw her as a change champion and that she was doing something important in raising up a suppressed group of people, race of people. And may not just be Latinas. It's an example of any kind of racial group. She, we believe, is an inspiration to help other racial groups to come up and also to have that equity. So let's hear what Valeria has to say.
Good morning, everybody from early morning in New Jersey. My name is Valeria. I'm honored to be here, very moved by Tahira's words. And today I appreciate this opportunity to speak from the heart, because the world pushes us to speak from the mind. So this unique opportunity to speak from the heart, I embrace it. And I just want to say that I'm here to serve and to share a message with you that hopefully will inspire you. So I'm here because I believe that Latinas are the best kept secret in the history of the United States. And I really believe that. So as Tahira said, my story begins in Argentina. I was born in a very small town, a rural town. We had unpaved streets outside of my house, and you could see dogs and cows walking, very small town. And since I was very young, at home, I heard great things about my future. My parents were extremely supportive. My father did not have the opportunity to go to high school. He had to start working at 11. And my mom went to high school but could not go to college because they could just not afford that. They had to move to the capital city of Buenos Aires, and that didn't work out. So in a way, I became the hope for the family. And throughout my childhood, I heard, you can do it. And I became the first one in my family to go to college. I moved to the capital city of Buenos Aires. I worked full time to pay for my studies. And I felt really out of place. I felt unprepared. I felt an imposter. You know, when you're the first one to go into spaces that no one else in your family went to, it feels very different and weird and uncomfortable. You have no one at home who can give you guidance and say, you are doing okay, because no one went through that experience. And you feel a little bit by yourself, right? So went into a corporate career, very driven, very mind oriented, a corporate career, the first one in my family to go into a corporate space. I even had to learn how to dress for a corporate job. So everything was new and a challenge. Years later, I got married, and my husband and I decided to explore educational opportunities in the US. We came to the US for an MBA, which we also paid out of our work. Like, we came with essentially no money and we had to take huge loans. And when I arrived to the US, this experience of feeling out of place multiplied, went exponential. And I started to feel throughout my corporate career in the US, I felt one of the most powerful and I would say pervasive cultural mindsets that those of us who are immigrants or kids of immigrants who come to the US from a colonized country, from cultures that were oppressed, from cultures where women had a secondary role, not a role of visibility, not a role of leadership, but another role predetermined when we were born. I felt unworthy. I felt unworthy of the space I was given in a corporation. I felt I had to work really hard to show that they had made the right decision hiring me. I felt unworthy of making good money to the point that I went 7 years without asking for a salary increase. And I worked really, really, really hard. I had children, I continued working, and in 2016, I burnt out. I had a burnout. I tried to be, I was pushing my life from my adrenaline, from my mind. And the mind wants perfection. The mind wants more. It's never enough. So I pushed myself to the limit of exhaustion physically and emotionally. In 2016, I had to stop entirely. And that was a major blessing in my life because I had to stop working and I had to really take care of myself. In the silence, I reconnected with the person that I had lost touch with, me. I had lost me. I had degrees. I had a great corporate career. I had abundance in my life, but I had lost myself. So in 2016, I embarked on a mission to figure out how to transform my mindset, how to feel abundant from the inside, how to feel worthy, and how to essentially tackle all of those cultural mindsets and beliefs that I had brought with me when I came as an immigrant from a colonized country. And it was a journey of looking inside into my ugly parts, embracing those parts of me that I didn't like too much, embracing the good and the bad, and learning that I had labeled those myself. There's no good and there's no bad. There just is. So I learned to embrace all of those parts. And that's when my work with the Hispanic community started in the US. And I said, how can I bring from my talents and everything that I have received and give back to my community? And I started to work for the first time in 16 years in the US with the Hispanic community. That's when I learned that I was not the only one carrying these cultural mindsets and holding ourselves back. In the US, we have 60 million Hispanics, and we're going to be 100 million Hispanics, or 30% of the population in 2060. But the statistics today are really awful. If you look at how many Latinas we have in leadership positions, it's usually less than 5%. No Latinas in Fortune 500. Very few Latinas in executive positions and C-suite. So why is this happening? So through my writing, my invitation is that we walk away from feeling a victim, because that's what our colonized cultures have left in us, the feeling that we're victims and that things and events happen to us. So my invitation, which is the invitation that I make to myself every single day, is to look within and figure out, how can I transform my mindset? How can I work with myself instead of pointing the finger out into the world and finding blame? Yes, the system is not fair, we know that. But we cannot sit and wait for that to change. We need to change. The only thing that we can change is us. That's all we can change. So the opportunity and my dream, my vision for the Hispanic community in the US is a vision of empowerment, of self-empowerment, each person to stand in their own power and find their truth, but also a vision of unification, that we can overcome our differences of race, that we can embrace our Afro-Latinos and give them space, and that we can be a blueprint of healing, of racial unity, of working together as a community, elevating each other. And that's the way that we will move forward and create the change this country wants to see and the world wants to see. So to finalize my conversation from my heart, Latinas. Today, our community, 30% of our community is younger than 18 years old. Those of us who are mothers are raising the leaders of the future of this country. So we need to break the chain with ourselves, and that will break the chain for the generations to come. We have a huge power in our hands, but we have not yet awakened to it. I'm thankful for the tribe of Latinas and people from all races and cultures that have inspired me, supported me, elevated me so that I can be here today. Thank you from my heart. Blessings to all of you. Thank you. And happy Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you, Valeria. Thank you for sharing a bit of your story of change, of their background from something, being a pioneer in your family, in your community, and going into uncharted territory, being a first, going up there, doing things which your family has not been doing, going into uncharted territory, uncharted area, and really being very steadfast in it. I could see the commitment and drive in you. It's like you're going to go all out in this objective. It seems to be your core purpose very clearly. And you've delivered it very, very powerfully in your story, in your message. Yeah, it's something which really drives you, and I believe that it will inspire others of other racial groups, whichever, around the world, not just in the US, but around the world, to rise up to meet what they can be. I can resonate that in some ways also. My family came from also a minority. So all of us are gems, all of us are special. And thank you and congratulations for doing so well and for such a great message. So now we have, from the US, we're moving up to Canada. We have Richard Kenicki from Canada. Again, it is morning for him. He was brought in last minute. I really commend him for that. Now, Richard has been in the financial industry for over 40 years. Very good how he starts his profile. He brings everything to question. He really goes into the details, and he wants to know everything. He wants to know the why. We discovered that when we interacted with him, and the judges discovered that also. He wants to uncover the secrets and the lies. A real truth advocate he is. And his book introduces time equity. I'm interested to know what brought him to that level that he wanted to write about this. And it seems, again, similar to Valeria, to make it his lifelong purpose. Now, Richard is an honorary mention for the Golden Door 2021 for his book. And also, same thing, a change champion. So he had a bronze medal for the Golden Door Rex. Looking forward to hear what inspired Richard. I hope that he will share with us. Richard, on to you.
Good day. And a special thanks to you, Tahira, for inviting me, even in the last minute. It's always a pleasure to head out and share your story. And I especially really enjoy listening to other speakers and really appreciate Annette and Yana and their sharing of their story this morning. So I'd like to say and start off by saying that we are exactly the sum of our last thought, in the sense of that's what brought us here together today and brought us together for the Golden Door and the Rex Karmavir Awards. My story is quite interesting. I've always been a person who enjoys challenging the status quo. I was a handful for my parents and my family and my teachers all through my life, and truly enjoyed having the ability to challenge respectfully the answers that have brought the world to where it is. In the early mid 1970s, I was enjoying myself as an auto mechanic. I did a 7,750 hour apprenticeship, and all of a sudden I found myself invited to come and work in the investment industry. And I can tell you why that happened. And again, at that moment, at that time, it was all about being open-minded to accepting absolutely everything that came and looking at the good and the bad as perfection and trying to deal with that in the context of a young man creating a future for himself, like so many of us that are watching this hit program right now. So it's very inspiring for me to take a look at how did I move from that mechanic stage, and it was just open-mindedness that allowed me to listen to somebody who made a particular suggestion. So in 1981, with no real education, I moved into the investment business and I started to work as a financial advisor. It was almost rather comical at the first day that I went to work. But I learned very quickly, and I learned how to establish my own bounds and parameters. And I started to recognize that there were a lot of things in the investment industry that really needed to be upgraded. Financial literacy is a very important topic, and especially when we're taking a look at the crisis that we find ourselves in today. We really don't have faith in our leadership. We are confused about the financial affairs. We have a lack of transparency. And all of these truths came out as I was in the industry. And I was very fortunate that I joined up with a gentleman who asked me how I was going to differentiate myself in the industry. And I looked at him and I said, well, if I knew how to differentiate myself, I'd be out there doing it. So please tell me what it is that you would like me to know. And he said that 97% of the people in our industry, they sell milk to their clients. And he wanted to make sure that I understood that it was better to sell my clients the cow. And for me, that was a breakthrough moment. And I worked diligently to respect that principle and that philosophy and to teach people alternative strategies from the perspective of don't put your money in the bank, become a shareholder of the bank. It's a subtle difference, but the conversation around these issues are confusing for very many people. Well, we had an amazing success in our business, and we grew a company from $9 million to $13 billion in assets under administration. And I realized that the love affair that I had with the financial industry was changing very dramatically at that point, because I had no faith in the sense of where things were going for the future. I chose to resign and to sell off my interest in the business. And as I walked away from the investment business after 23 years, I was thinking to myself, there were really a lot of amazing things that were going on. And yet in the background of my mind, I saw some of the things that I didn't really want to see and didn't really want to admit. But I was very fortunate to be able to say to myself that I found, or the people that I found, I left them off better than when I found them from a financial perspective. So I felt that the 23 years of being in business was not in vain. I totally enjoyed myself, but it was time to pack up and leave. And that again comes from the thought that we're listening to within ourselves. We are an amazing, humanity is absolutely amazing if we start to just really pay attention and be a listening for not only ourselves and our true hearts, as so many have said already today, but it's that recognition of what's truly in your heart that brings that out of you. So when I decided to leave the business in 2003, I wanted to reclaim some of the time that I had lost as a dad, as a person who was in a relationship, having a family. And so I took 5 years, and I went from 2003 to 2008, and I reconnected with my family, got my children off to school, and did a few other things. And in 2008, I decided I'll return after a 5-year hiatus back into the financial industry, and all of a sudden, 2008 financial crisis came upon us. And it stopped everything. It stopped everything for the world. It changed the world. And so as I was watching this crisis unfold, I started to recognize that every crisis creates an opportunity for people to shift and to change. And I started to think about the changes that could empower people through a better level of financial literacy and hence make better and smarter financial decisions. So I started to write a book, and that book took me 12 years to write. And in fact, last year in 2020, after having 85,000 words and a mess, I decided that I was going to put it all together and actually finish and complete the book in the year of COVID. And I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity and the support to be able to finish my book, because the book is talking about the opportunity to really truthfully change the world in a concept called time equity, where instead of money, we actually utilize the concept of time. One of the things that people don't understand about money is its ability to not be transparent, and therefore that creates a lack of trust. When we implement time, we are using a universal or a God law, which, if you will, cannot be modified or corrupted by a man. So the switch in our minds is very simple, that we exchange time for money and eliminate capitalism, eliminating greed, corruption, and manipulation, reinstating ourselves in a more grounded situation that's transparent, which creates equality, and the equality creates a true democracy. And one of these days, I envision the world in the future, when we would, let's say, look back at it from 100 years, to ask what took us so long to shift our consciousness from this stuff that grows on trees, and that we can actually create a better lifestyle for ourselves by having and unleashing our full human potential without any reservations or restrictions based on the amount of money. The worst words in the world are, "I'm sorry, there's not enough money in the budget to do this." Please empower yourselves to go get it and do it.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard. It takes a lot of courage to shift from your financial industry after, you say, over 23 years, and to do what you're doing now. And I can really resonate with that. And to take on something which very few people actually understand. And to push that message, to really go forward with it. It's not easy what you're doing. You're tackling a very old industry. It's been there for a long, long time. Trying to change that. And also the fact that you came from a mechanic background. You've proven a lot to people. I think those who are watching here will see that you have expressed your limitlessness. And these are kind of people you an example of a person who we would really appreciate and is a great example to millions out there that you are not within a boundary, you're not within limitations, you're willing to question, you're willing to share your thoughts, you're willing to prove things. And 12 years of writing your book, it takes a lot. Persistence, perseverance. We're in a world where, we're being told, get a book out in 1 month, 3 months. It's common, the cookie cutter approach. Losing the heart and the substance. Writing a book is a journey. You took that journey. So, yes, thank you, Richard, for being an inspiration. And it seems like the stories here are really stories of transformation and of heart, and also telling us who you are. I'm learning about who you are. I'd love to learn who is Jana Fry. Jana Fry is originally from Russia, and she is based in Singapore. She calls herself a spiritual anthropologist. Interesting. She helps the humans. She is a speaker, life coach, facilitator, mindfulness teacher. Yes, the human heart, mind, spirit. Timeless teaching podcast, The Awakened Human. And she has quite a community over 30 countries. She did really well. She had second place in poetry, the Golden Door Award, the main award. And she got an honorary mention for the essay and blog category. Very interesting essay on the truth of Tantra. So we'd love to hear from Jana Fry.
Good day, and it's my pleasure to be here with everyone today. Let me share with you a story. I was born in USSR, a country that does not exist anymore. And when I was growing up, a common joke among people was that there are two things that are not allowed in our country: religion and sexuality. Both were forbidden for 70 years. And as you know, with young aspirational minds, they always go where they're not allowed. As a teenager, I didn't understand the word religion, as it felt a bit too limiting. So in my mind, I substituted it with the word divine. And I saw divine everywhere, in people, in trees, in oceans, in animals in the sky. And this is how I started writing. I wanted to express from a very young age the divinity I have been seeing in everything and everyone around me. And just to make things clear, I didn't grow up in a private boarding school somewhere in the Central Europe for girls only, how people often assume when they see me. Actually, I grew up in Russia on the streets, and my friends were criminals, prostitutes, drug addicts, oligarchs, politicians, a very diverse group of people that taught me a lot about life, including my ability to see goodness in everyone, regardless of their circumstances. And as a part of my upbringing, I have also seen death really up close. And I remember when I was 17 years old, one of my closest friends has died because of the heroin overdose, just a few months after she has been released from prison and gave birth to a baby girl. And her name was Victoria. She was incredibly talented in writing and wanted to be a journalist. In my culture, we believe that when a person dies, the energy of all unrealized talents, gifts, and potential is being passed on to the people who were closest to this person so that they can realize it for the benefit of all. And so here I am, coming from an entire town, region, and country of women with suppressed voices who were not able to express their truth. And that's what I started doing for them, where I became that collective voice where I would be just tuning in into what would be happening in the collective and allowing these words to come through me in the stream of consciousness. And this is how the poetry has been born, the one that I have been writing. It's the voice of the collective that wanted to express itself. And sexuality was another subject I was interested in as a child, largely because it was a taboo in my culture when I was little. So I started studying it, talking to people, reading any books I could understand, and get to see it holistically. And the more I studied the subject of sexuality, the more I saw how it connected to spirituality in the deepest, most profound, and most ancient way. And this is how I arrived into Tantra, where I was looking for spiritual answers. And the more I go into the myth of Tantra, the more I realize how deeply misunderstood, misguided, and commercialized this industry is at the moment. So in that led me to writing a piece about Tantra, where I was simply expressing my own truths. And that was the essay that I submitted for Golden Doors Awards. And what I learned from my journey is that it is really important to question everything and look for your own truth. Not the one that was given to you by your primary caregivers or the society, but your own truth. And that process of discovery is a painful process. As one of my friends, Luca, who is a philosopher, said to me recently, when you are digging under the surface, you are doing it at your own risk. And I find he's so right about that. When you start questioning the reality around you, you will discover that many things that you thought were actually true are not. And that realization often leads people into a state of deep disorientation, frustration, and even disappointment with themselves, others, and the society. And if that has been the case for you, the one who is listening to us here right now, then it is important that you keep going. And then there is the light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep questioning and going deeper and deeper within yourself until one day you will find that infinite source of light within you. I also learned that it's important not to wait, because we never know how much time we actually have left on Earth in this physical body. And let me tell you this, the very first interview I did for Timeless Teachings podcast was an interview with Eugenia Gajardo. When we were recording that interview, Eugenia was dying. And doctor said she had just a few weeks left. So instead of crawling under the blanket and drowning in self-pity, she decided to go out there into the world and talk about life and death during the last few weeks she has left. And that was one of the most moving and touching interviews I have recorded till date. We laughed, we cried, we talked, we have been silent. And above all, we talked about this incredible gift that we call life. And I remember one of her last words were to me, Yana, just live life, live it to the fullest. And me trying to be perfectionist and trying to record and release that episode to be specifically perfect, I missed it by one day when she passed away. And to me, the biggest lesson from that was that it is so important to seize the moment. And this is my message here to everyone. And that's why I also submitted my work for the Golden Door Awards, even though in my mind, neither poetry nor essay were perfect enough, because they never are when you're an artist. I just told myself, just do it, Yana, seize the moment. Thank you.
Just do it. Yes, just do it. Seize the moment. Don't wait. There is not enough time. There is, just do it. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. And with progress, you will reach some excellence. Yana, thank you so much for sharing what you said. Question everything. Same thing as what Richard said. Question everything. The why. Start with the why. That's why at Golden Door, we love this. We love people who actually take that step of questioning and discovering. That is the transformation, the mind transformation, the spiritual transformation, and being as an example to others. Diana, I believe, is on a year journey, and she calls it a gap year. She's traveling around the world, while many of us are still like stuck in one country. But she just seizes the moment. She's just traveling and traveling all across Europe, I believe. Another courageous lady. We have got a lot of courageous people here. It's amazing. Starting from Annette. Okay, now we are moving from Singapore up to Africa, Zimbabwe. And we have this very special lady, Gladys Mutsoputsi Shimbambiri from Zimbabwe. And she has a financial background, a bit like Richard. Business skills, microfinance is her specialty. She's also a consultant coach. And she is a radio presenter on women empowerment, empowering them through finance, microfinance. She has got quite a number of awards. Iconic Women of the Decade in Zimbabwe. Now, Gladys was an honorary mention for the essay blog category at the Golden Door 2021. And would love to hear what she has to say. We can see already she's got strong leadership abilities. She's very much into women empowerment. She will inspire a lot of women out there in a country like Zimbabwe, where women are still somewhat suppressed. And especially now in the COVID season, in these lockdowns and COVID pandemic, Africa has gone through a very rough patch. So I'd love to hear her story for all of us to hear.
Thank you very much, Tahira, for this opportunity. My name is Gladys Mutsoposi Shumbambiri. I am from Zimbabwe, and I'm honored to be on this platform this afternoon. I was a senior economist with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe for almost 8 years, and I was enjoying my job, and I was in a comfortable position, and I never realized or gave it a thought that my job one day was going to end. So in 2011, in January, on the 28th of January, I received a letter that I was one of the people that was going to be retrenched in my department. At that time, I was one of the senior managers, and I got a shock of my life, and I didn't have a plan. This is something that I had not envisioned or thought that would happen to me. So I started my life on a new journey. And because I was used to being a professional, used to work in a day job where you are given instructions of what to do and what not to do, I started applying for many, many jobs. And my bosses used to refer me to influential people that would maybe help me to get a job. But I did not manage to get any of those jobs. I remember I did over 5,000 applications to get a job, and none of those applications were replied, or even just to say a regret. And I came to realize that it is not just your day job that will give you financial security. I came to realize that there are so many opportunities in the world out there after your formal day job. So getting retrenched should not be something that will draw your life backwards. Getting retrenched should not be something that should give you a depression. And I realized this also during COVID-19 last year in 2020, how so many people lost their jobs. And it confirmed that there are so many opportunities. And it also confirmed that there is no financial security in a formal job. And the qualities that are in you, the true potential that you have as a person will actually come out when you are now independent, when you can now work on the things that you love, when you can now work on the things that you are passionate about. So through the advice that I was given by my husband back in 2011 about starting a microfinance business, I started on a journey and networked with the people at the banking supervision at the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe about how to start a microfinance business. And I did that. And in October 2012, my application was actually approved, and I started operating a microfinance lending business under the name Intelligent Business Consultants, where we were giving SME loans to women, to youths, and to various businesses. And this door of microfinance actually opened many other opportunities. I was sent on a training by my board of directors to Zambia to learn about making microfinance work. And through this opportunity, another door opened. I met with a very special lady who trained me in financial education, and through those opportunities, I got another opportunity to work for the FAO of the United Nations with smallholder farmers, training financial literacy around Zimbabwe in the country's 10 districts. And this opened many doors for me. It also strengthened the fact that retrenchment is an opportunity to life's open doors. So you should not rely on your day job. And right now, I'm working with various women, I'm working with various organizations, doing the things that I love, talking about financial literacy, financial education, women empowerment, and coaching women in business, mentoring young girls, mentoring young business people, and offering to various community groups my skills. And I've come to network with a lot of people. Even being here on the Golden Door Awards, being a recipient of a Golden Door Award, it is all because of these opportunities that have opened up for me because I was retrenched from my formal job, which I used to love very much. So there is potential in you. This is the message that I would like to give men out there, women out there, young people out there. There is life after retrenchment, and your day job is not a financial security, and it will not leave a legacy for your children. But when you start doing other things, when you start taking that potential that is in you, take it out into the world, help someone else out there, this will actually leave a legacy for your children and even for your grandchildren. So there are so many qualities that are hidden in you. You just need to dig deep and work with other people, work with mentors, work with coaches, participate in various initiatives to make your life a success, to make your life meaningful, to have satisfaction, to have fruition, and to leave a legacy. So I just want to say my parting words: retrenchment is actually an opportunity to the life's open doors that are there for you. Do not get depressed. Do not get worried that your day job has just ended. Do not get depressed because there's COVID-19. You are now working from home, or your organization can lay you off. It's actually a blessing to work for yourself. It's actually a blessing to bring about the potential that is in you, the authentic you. So be yourself, go out there and make an impact.
Thank you, Gladys. What passion and what energy and what drive. You reminded me of this one word, anti-fragility. An anti-fragile person is beyond a person who's resilient. Resilience is getting through difficult situations, but an anti-fragile person thrives in the most challenging situations and is almost untouchable. So you remind me of a person who is potentially, or maybe all you already are, Gladys, anti-fragile. And if we can be anti-fragile, no matter what adversity, what crisis comes into our lives or the world is hit with, we can still thrive, we can still make things happen, we can still flourish, we can still create innovations and raise up our communities. So, Gladys, thank you so much for inspiring me and others with your passion and drive, and really hope to see all those who are watching flourish at this time and beyond moving forward. Next, we have someone of a quite a different background. He is from India, and we have people really, some who do not have an education, and then we have some who are really well, highly academic people. So it really doesn't matter. It's again, it goes back to your attitude, goes back to how far you're willing to push for truth and integrity, and how far you're willing to bring out an important message out there. So Hari is an eminent educationist, a scientist, and he served as a professor of immunology and a head of Gadvasu in Ludhiana, India. Counselor, Indian Embassy, Russia. He has a number of patents in his name and pioneered the bacteriophage therapy. So, really interesting. He has a different kind of profile as a poet. He's definitely not your typical. But what he did is that he brought in the explanation, the scientific understanding of the immune system and put it in poetry. And that is great because he's merged the arts and the sciences. And it is one way that we can apply, we can bring the arts, expression, poetry to impart a very important technical message that can save lives and give better understanding of things which people don't really understand. Very few understand the immune system. How many people are willing to really read about it? Very, very few. The level of the focus is not so much there, and he has done that. He had the first prize for the poetry segment, and also the Golden Door Rex Kamavir medal. I believe got the bronze medal because he's also a chain champion, truth writer. He has gone as far as has written to the WHO. He has done quite a lot in trying to share information and impact change. He's taken the steps courageously. So I'd love to hear, Hari, what is the driving force and what has inspired him and what has made him what he is, if that's part of the story? Hari?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tyra. First of all, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm also grateful to Vicky Thomas for providing me this platform to share my views. My story is a very strange and very different story from the rest of the participants of this Golden Door Awards. I come from a very different background. My childhood was a very different one, and I come from a very humble background. But during my studies, I realized that there is a need of change. I was not satisfied with the way I was being taught by many teachers, and I realized that it could have an impact on my future because uh, ultimately it is the teacher who shapes the individual's life and career and the thinking pattern of the individual. So I was observing what is wrong with the education system, why many students are afraid of certain subjects, why some teachers they generate hatred or even they make the students uneasy by their mere presence in the classroom. So I wanted to rectify all this, and I determined that I would become a good teacher, and I would instill love for the subject in the mind of the students. Also, I would inspire them to do something great in their lives. And I got this opportunity when I joined my PhD from Nottingham University in the United Kingdom. When I returned back to India, I joined as an associate professor in immunology at the Guru Angad Dev Veterinary and Animal Science University. Earlier, it was part of Punjab Agriculture University in Ludhiana. There, I taught, and during the 30 years of my career, I had very different experiences just out of my own interest. I pursued many different pathways, and I also inculcated many different interests and hobbies. And that ultimately led to the thinking and the philosophy which I am now living. During my student life, I realized that many teachers are not kind to the students. They don't encourage initiative or curiosity among the students. So I thought that during my period of teaching, I would always ensure that students are given adequate opportunity and appropriate environment to inculcate good things, to inculcate love towards the subject, the passion towards the subject, and also a determination to do something creative and useful. So when I joined as a teacher, I decided to pursue teaching very seriously. And what Swami Vivekananda said, that we need a religious science and a scientific religion. So I wanted to pursue science also religiously. So in addition to my teaching profession, I was also engaged in research because part of my job was also to conduct research. Although my background during my PhD and earlier studies was cancer immunology, later on, I shifted to microbiology because of the prevailing circumstances. We had a merger of immunology department into bacteriology biology, leading to a microbiology department. So the mandate of that department was microbiology. So I had to shift to infectious diseases research, and along with my teaching, I also took research assignments, I took projects, and I was principal investigator of some extramural projects as well as internal projects. And that gave me an opportunity to work into some of the very important aspects of livestock industry that are creating problems, that are leading to economic losses. And these were the problems which were to be addressed through research, because there are infectious diseases for which there are no appropriate diagnostics, there are no accurate diagnostics, and for many there are no good vaccines available. Even if there are some vaccines available, they may not be very effective. So also there are no therapies for certain diseases. So along with teaching, I also undertook research on certain aspects which were related to these things. So during my journey, I also had opportunity to listen to many eminent people, to undergo studies under eminent teachers. Particularly when I was at Cambridge University, I realized what exactly is science when I saw what is going on in that environment. And Cambridge environment was really very conducive to my research thinking and for inspiring me to doing some original research. So during my Cambridge days, I realized that one has to contribute something to original science and research, and I implemented that when I worked as associate professor and later on professor of immunology. And I took some of those projects which were really very challenging. And I realized that if I find the answers to these, it will be a great help to the poor farmer, to the animal owner, and also it will relieve the animal of great sufferings because of those diseases. So my first and foremost duty was to carry out research that would lead to some solutions. Whereas the prevailing environment was that most of the teachers or even scientists, they were interested in publishing papers, just They were like factory churning out papers, and those papers really didn't mean anything to the farmer because that farmer wanted solutions. And simply listing so many papers published and boasting about those publications, that really didn't help the farmer. So I realized that one has to do some research, even if it is very risky. So I took risk in research, and I pursued that path which was less trodden, and I followed the uncharted territory of working on problem-oriented research projects. And I am really very happy to share that I could find something useful through my research, and I can say that it will also inspire many others who are students or who are in this field doing research to follow this path of untraditional path of going for problem oriented research and try to find out solutions rather than churning data for publishing papers. And during this, I realized that faith, hope, and determination, they are very important. And I realized that the cardinal human values of truth, righteousness, peace, non-violence, and love, they are all prevailing everywhere. And even in science, they have much more relevance than any other field, because we have to deal with so many subjects, so many aspects of life where these are really very important. And one has to implement, one has to adopt these in life and make something fruitful out of one's own life and one's efforts. So I followed the scientific pathway, taking into consideration the Vivekanand philosophy of following a religious science. During this quest for science, I found that truth is very important. Integrity is very important, because what you churn out of your research, it has no meaning if it is not backed by truth and integrity. And the old saying in the Mandukya Upanishad, which was written several thousand years ago, Satyamev Jayate, which means truth alone triumphs. Is that during my journey in science, I could really establish that ultimately it is the truth that triumphs, and I am happy that I followed and came out with some solutions. I could improve the diagnostics by using my immunology knowledge. I could also develop some vaccines for infectious diseases, and I could also therapy for brucellosis, which is a very important disease, and it leads to annual losses of several $1 million every year in India alone, not to say of other disease, other countries. So I using bacteriophage therapy, and this path was totally unusual because we see the antimicrobial resistance which is increasing day by day, and it is going to be an imminent global pandemic in the near future. So if we find out a solution to microbial resistance to antibiotics, then it will be a great service, and it will help not only the animal health but also the mankind. So I took the pathway which was bacteriophage research, which is an alternative to antibiotics to treat and cure bacterial diseases. And I found that this is a very promising area, and a lot has to be done in this area to take the research to the level of field. And I found that there are many people who are really willing to work. The only thing is that they should be given the right environment, they should be given the right support and a conducive environment. But unfortunately, this is very rare. In science, I have found that it is just the opposite. In most of the cases, we find that people are suppressing others. They don't want the solutions to come out, and many people are jealous or rival, and they just want to somehow suppress, and they don't want solutions to come out. They are not really worried about the uh, problems, the sufferings of animal owners and their animals. And this is a big impediment. This is really very pathetic, that what people are doing, they are not justifying their profession. They should be good teacher, first of all. They should inspire students, and they should do serious research to bring out solutions. And this actually is a very rewarding experience, because I realized that whatever we say as a theory, it should come into practice. And I tried to live this in my own life. I tried to pursue the path of truth and integrity and work religiously in my scientific pursuits. And I found that it really helps, and it helps in bringing out solutions, and it gives the fulfillment, which is really very helpful, and it gives a meaning to your life. So I realized this by with this I just want to convey my truth, that the science should be pursued with purposeful meaning in the life, and should be solution oriented research and not just paper oriented research. So with this, I just thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, Hari, thank you so much. Yes, thanks for your message. You have gone into something like problem oriented research, which is a good message. And I hope that more and more people listen to what you're saying, that we really need problem oriented research. I also know that a lot of research papers are submitted in PhD level doctorates, and almost 90%, I don't know exact figure, are never read. So it's totally useless. What's the point of all those years and months of research? The scientists, academia, they play a very important role in changing the world. They need to be proactive and problem oriented, and not just looking at theory, pure theory, but really going beyond that, because we need solutions right now. Absolutely. Okay, thank you for raising that matter, Hari. We have to move along very much. And the next person is Gabby Jurgens. Also, we have two people from America. She's based in the US also. She is a designer, Homefront Girls brand, interesting, Cancer Warrior. She is quite an inspiration, because she suffered cancer, and she has spent a better part of 2021 fighting this. She is a senior publicist to the philanthropists and win this fight campaign to stop human trafficking. So she did really well in the essays and blog category. And she came in second. Outstanding. Gabby, she, even though she is just not fully recovered, I believe, and she's still living and doing things for others, working on campaigns. Now that is unbelievable. That is unbelievable. She's doing all that. I would love to know what drives her, what really makes her tick. Gabby?
Good morning, Tahira, and I want to say thank you to Vicky and her staff at Hit Talks for allowing me to be a part of this incredible panel of speakers and of the Golden Door Awards. It was an absolute pleasure to be a part of such an incredible awards ceremony and participating in it. I was very grateful and humbled to have made a medal in the awards. So one of the things that I was thinking about, and to answer really quickly to hear your question as far as fighting, one of the things that I answer when people ask me about that, and I think the important thing always is, since this is the second time I'm doing it, I'm facing this, is to always remain positive. I think positivity is extraordinary, important part of a recovery of any situation, certainly any illness. So, and I get an enormous amount of bounce by the people that are around me. So I try to keep the world that is around me, a group of very close friends who also have that sense of positivity and encouragement in their lives as to move forward. So today, what I would like to do is talk about something that I hope will be inspirational and will help those who are interested or wonder, how do I too become creative? Or the other question can be, what makes a creative? The word creative has come to be something that is used quite often today to denote anyone who is participating in either music or writing or painting. But I want to take it one step further, because I think for people who perhaps would like to or don't see themselves with a creative bone in their body, I've heard this so many times from friends, and I always point out there's all kinds of levels of creativity, and sometimes it requires a little bit of a journey. And that journey can start in many, many ways. So here's what I'd like to share with all of you. One of the quotes that I was always very fond of is something by Emerson. And he always expressed that creativity was an expression of creative genius. So think about that, creative genius. Something that, if you think about it in the sense of Emerson, you think, well, he was born as a genius, the ability to write, to be a collector of so many incredible quotes, and to write those that even to this day have meaning for so many, including me. But I think one of the things that I share with my friends who sense that they don't have creativity in their lives, or they're not creative, it's because they're looking at it in the way that we look at creativity today, as it has to be something that is used with the pen and a piece of paper, painting, a brush, being able to create a piece of music. That's all certainly true of creativity, but it isn't the only thing. I think it's the way in which we live our lives and the expressions with which we live our lives that also shows a sense of the creativity that is in our inner life. Now, how to tap into that? There's a couple of ways. What I would lead you to is something else that was very important that I certainly took to heart is another writer. Writer Maria Reich often said that solitude was extraordinarily important in his life as a writer. Solitude and the opportunity to be able to go outside of the world that we're surrounded with, and to be able to find a moment of time just for yourself. If you look at the world that we live in, meditation and yoga and many, many more ways are something that is almost commonplace now. It's not something that is just special to one particular, group of people. It is something that's been adopted worldwide. Now, why is that? And why is it that writers and creatives find it so important to carve out in their daily lives that moment of being able to really find a place for themselves, to be able to be still, to be able to go into our inner life? Well, the reason for that is because in doing that, we drown out the chaos of the world that is around us. And in doing that, we're able to go inside and actually contemplate the things that are important to us. So that's one of the things that I would encourage you to really understand. I'm a self-taught designer, product creator, brand designer. I've taught myself everything from audio, video production, narration, voiceover work. And trust me, none of those things would have been possible a couple of years ago, because I was a person that felt a lot of insecurities. And that's another thing that I would like to stress. All of us have an inner critic that will always tell us, not quite right, do it again. Perhaps, or you're never going to make it, or it's not as good as someone else's. So that inner critic is one of those that we have to silence. And sometimes that inner critic can be very helpful. It can help us become more disciplined, but it is in small doses that we should allow it to come in. And it's not always easy to shut it down. I'll be the first one to tell you. because for many years, I come from a creative female or family oriented world, and for me it was always a stumbling block at getting past that inner critic, but I did it. So it is capable. But in doing that, I really had to go into myself. I really had to think about the things that were important. And then I found my voice, and then I found my words, and then I found the ability to share those inner findings, and the desire to share stories that I felt would bring something to the world, or to the people that are reading it. The world is quite lofty. That's a pretty lofty word, but let's just say something that would empower and something that would cause someone to feel very strongly that this impacted their lives. So one of the things also that I would like to stress is that, that I'd like to also add is that understand that a sense of personal happiness and development is quite an extraordinary creation as we talk about creativity. So keep a journal. Stream of consciousness writing is extraordinary. You'll be amazed at what comes through. A very wise woman once said that seeking solitude, actually, let me do this correctly. Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self. What I'd like to leave you with is also this one part. It's also a place to start. So carve that time out for yourself. And I certainly hope that this has been helpful. And I want to thank Tahira for allowing me to be a part of this extraordinary experience. So thank you.
Loneliness is the poverty of self. How true. So, and solitude is important to discover self. We're never really truly lonely. Once we tap onto our creativity, there's no loneliness. There's richness, there's wealth. So, excellent advice. That's the true power of writing, comes when you are willing to dive within, go within, and unleash that power. It's, this world is full of distractions. It's absolutely. So we can time out and write and express yourself. Innovations come through. Those who have never innovated will start innovating. We're all innovators. We're all writers. We're all powerful speakers. If you find our message, which is deep within us. And Gabby is a very creative soul. I've seen how she writes her sentences. There's a story in every sentence. This is how she is. So comes to our final speaker. We have all the way in Sweden. She, by the way, Ingela Johansson, is also based in Singapore, but right now she's in Sweden. So she lives, I believe, she lives in 2 countries. So she's author of Creative Flow. As Gabby was talking about meditation. So that's what Ingela has written about. Creative meditation, and how she has merged and brought these 2 things together. And in her art, she's an artist. I believe she has had exhibitions. And to bring that, the visual, the diving within, the meditation, and the creative element, which is innate in every human. We are naturally creative. And to release it out in various forms, and how she's written that in a book, how she teaches that through certain other tools. Everyone, I believe, should practice it and make it part of their lives. So let's hear from Ingela and see what has brought her to this stage. What is her epiphany or transformation path?
Thank you, Tahira, for that. And thank you, Gabby. It feels like we're kindred spirits, although I'm here in Sweden right now talking to you. And I can only agree, we are all creatives. And to illustrate this point, I would like to start with a text that I actually received from my gallerist in Singapore, Daniel Ord, who has written this text, because it started my own transformation in, I think it was 2016, he gave me this. And he says, self-discovery isn't for the faint of heart, but you're better off grabbing it, saying yes more often to figure out what feels right and what doesn't, and shaping your own life. Because the alternative, having others shape your life for you, isn't that great? Whew. Speaking from the heart, well, here I would say I was realizing quite quickly while reading this that I was guilty of the last part, having others shape your life for you. I'm a person that strongly believes that everyone should be, allowed to live their dreams to their full potential. And I believe that for everyone in my family, it's just that I kind of forgot that I was also part of this journey, that I was also allowed to do this. And it was after that my children's father passed away, and I was in the countryside in Malaysia. We were quite cut off from the world, so I turned to meditation and, of course, creativity, because it's, as an artist, creativity has always been my tool of healing, my tool of understanding, my tool to tell stories. But meditation opened the door to intuition as well. So I realized that when I painted straight after meditation, I could create pictures that when I saw them, I could realize, yes, this is exactly what has been stopping me, or this is what my intuition is trying to tell me right now. So my most important art piece ever will not be shown in a gallery, but it's here. It's in the book, and it says, my voice, my voice, my voice, my voice. And the message in the reflection was very clear. It says, if you don't make a decision, someone else will. And, all of these things are subconscious patterns. For me, I today know that I was breaking a pattern from my own family that has at least been there a couple of generations, maybe more. And it was the fear that I had from growing up with a mother that struggled with her mental health. And I was always afraid that she would succeed when she tried to commit suicide. And this has led me to stop myself so many times or be led by fear. And it also led me into relationships that I really shouldn't have been in. Anyway, after this, my voice, my voice, my voice, I did find my voice. I did leave the relationship I was in. But it took me a while. And I think it was almost exactly a year ago that my ex convinced me to sit down with him in a restaurant again to have a discussion where he would promise me the moon, or everything I've ever dreamt of. And the thing is that when I looked behind him, I could see this poster in the restaurant. And it was like my intuition had a billboard, because on this poster, it said, "You can't build your future on your past." So I did not. But I do think that if I hadn't, done my meditations and my paintings and my reflections on a daily basis, I wouldn't have seen my patterns. And there's so many more patterns that I have discovered, and I'm sure there's many more patterns that I will discover in the future. But creative meditation is not about creating pretty pictures, although you might do that as well. It's not about how good you are at painting. It's actually that when you're using colors, patterns, forms, you can allow your feelings into listening to yourself as well. And after the creative part, you end it with the reflections to start to understand your own patterns. And with that, I would just like to thank you, Tahira. Thank you, Vicky, behind the Hit Talks. And thank you to all the speakers that have been here today. It's been amazing to be part of this. Thank you.
Such a moving message, Ingela. Thank you for your vulnerability. We started off with vulnerability from Annette Greenwood, and we ended off with vulnerability with Ingela Johansson. And which also, it's a sign. It's a sign. Because don't forget, these are the winners and the commendation recipients. These 8 speakers have all achieved something. They've been recognized. And the one thing they had in common, among many other things, is the vulnerability. And then a few other things also. They're willing to make the change. They're willing to become uncomfortable, come out of their comfort zone. We're not talking about people in their early 20s. We're talking about people who've gone through a few decades of their lives, and they've made changes. They question everything. They want to find out and discover. Some of them have come from very humble, poor backgrounds. As Hari mentioned his humble background, Yana mentioned that she was on the streets. I don't know the details. I would love to know what exactly happened. And Gabby has suffered from cancer. So, and also the others, they have their story. They've not let adversity stop them, and they have achieved a major milestone. Not just for their writing, but as being messengers with the values of truth and integrity. And I hope that they will be ambassadors for truth writers of integrity. All of us at Golden Door, the committee, and also on behalf of Hit Talks, that you inspire hope and transformation. And that when people meet you and listen to you, and when they receive and see more of your writing, that you will project those values of truth and integrity for these following months and years onwards. I want to thank you all for opening up within that short 8 minutes, and all those as part of the audience who've been listening for the past hour and a half. Some of you in the US, 8 a.m., and the rest of you late at night. watch for this video also on Facebook, YouTube, and do share this video if you enjoyed it, if you found it will help someone else. And we also invite you to be part of Golden Door 2022, next year. You could be one of them. You could be one of them. Even if you don't make it, you'll be part of the community. So which part of the world you are, you can see we have speakers from 7 different countries, just from the 8. And whatever background you are, doesn't really matter. It's who you are inside. So I thank you, and I pass it to what Hit Talks would like to share now.